What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about BAM! Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. I do believe this was published in last year, 2019. I saw some stuff in the book that said 2018, but I'm almost positive it was last year, 2019. We're just going to stick with that. It is a very fast-paced, high-action read. It's definitely like a quest mixed with a revenge tale. But all in all, I would say that this thing really feels kind of like a love letter to martial arts movies. The story is about an 8-year-old boy named Ian who has been tasked by a god of death to kill the emperor. Now, Ian, obviously being a little kid, can't really do this on his own. So along the way, he's going to have to find heroes to help him in his quest. One of the catches being, though, there's plenty of heroes to go around, but Ian will have to kill them in order for them to join his cause. And from here, our ever-growing group of heroes will have to battle their way towards the Emperor, fighting monsters, men, and even themselves. The story has a very steady to fast pace that stays from beginning to end. Now, this is definitely one of those stories that has a lot happening in the very beginning and you just get dropped into the world, so you have to keep up. But I will say that Rob J. Hayes does a great job of keeping his writing contained. It's very nice and tight. So amongst all the chaos, like in the very beginning, kind of right when you're starting to kind of get worried that there's maybe just too much going on, it gets controlled and contained, and the story just unfolds in a very great way. It was just very well done. There's a lot of times where getting dropped into the world and everything's going on just doesn't work out that well. I do think in this case, it does. The characters in the book are extremely enjoyable. You'll definitely root for them. They've been fleshed out well, and that's a good thing. Some people might complain a little bit about this book being somewhat repetitive as the group goes from kind of town to town trying to gain another hero. It can seem a little repetitive, but I would kind of disagree because of the characters. The characters are kind of so well done that they each bring their own they each bring their own flair, their own bit of personality to the story that it actually almost changes the tone each time that we gain a new party member. So it's extremely awesome that these characters are so well done, because to me it's what defeats that repetitiveness. I just didn't feel it because each character was very enjoyable to bring into the fold. Another thing about the characters that actually plays on a trope that I really love is getting this group of people together that don't necessarily like each other, that on a normal day that they might be enemies, but due to the circumstance they have joined forces and now are fighting side by side, because it always creates great back and forth. The dialogue and stuff is a lot of fun to read when it's just kind of there's this animosity, but there's also this common goal. I just loved it. The relationships between the characters in this book, the way that they form and the way that they blossom is all to me was just as enjoyable as the crazy action in this book. And speaking of action, this book has it in spades. This thing is action-packed. It begins in a crazy battle. I mean, the very beginning battle is damn near like a finale battle. It's so crazy. It's so good, too. It's some of the action, especially when, because each one of the characters, the group members, they each kind of have their own fighting style or maybe their own weapons. One of our heroes, the very first one we're going to meet, and you could argue is the main character, Tommy Cho, uses a katana, and the action, the way that Rob J. Hayes writes the action in this book, especially if you've ever watched any samurai films, the action is done so well. You can really easily envision a Tommy Cho just slashing, hacking off limbs and cutting off. I mean, it's very, very easy to just immerse yourself in this action. It's a lot of fun, and it definitely keeps the pages burning through. Also, in the book, the world building is one of those it's world building on the go. So, I mean, we definitely get to see lots of different locations. but it's going to be as we travel from town to town. Like I said earlier, Rob J. Hayes keeps this story tight. So, yes, we are going to see newer places as we progress in the book, but we're not going to get some crazy, 10-page, layout about what this, what the area looks like. It's not going to be like that at all. Like I said, this is nice and tight. One of the things I really liked about the book, and I think that was an awesome thing for Rob J. Hayes to do, was he put quite a bit of folklore, monster like folklore in this book, like Japanese folklore monsters. You have, all kind like from the spirits, from obviously like the death god, and you have river dragons and it was man-faced goat. I don't know, it's just a lot of cool, crazy creature monsters that you just won't see in normal fantasy. So, I mean, this thing's got a nice little breath of fresh air when it comes to monsters. The story's plot is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's a quest, it's a revenge tale, but there's actually quite a few twists and turns in here, and I have to applaud Rob J. Hayes again, man. This was a lot of fun to read. Some of the stuff had a lot of foreshadowing, and I'm sure there's going to be people that are like, oh man, I saw that coming a mile away. But for me, even with the foreshadowing, and even though I call myself a dummy, I'm not a dummy, this still, at the end, created quite a pleasant surprise. There was some cool little twists, and some of the open questions I had got answered. It all kind of came together in the end, and it was a good feeling. It wasn't one of those like, oh man, this kind of just fell flat. Not at all. This one definitely found its mark. The overall tone of the book, it's a dark book, but there's also some very like bright and shining moments. Like I said, some of these characters, man, they have some like redemption value, and it definitely gets pulled off, and it's just so well done. Once again, going back to the characters, Rob J. Hayes, man, I got emotionally invested in some of these characters. The character of Jihao, man, I freaking love that guy, dude. Jihao is my man, and I definitely got a soft spot for that guy, and his character arc was just classic. If you watch martial arts movies or anything like that, it was just like, it was spot on. It was so spot on. I mean, I was just like, it touched me in that special place. No, not the no-no spot, but just the good place. And keeping with the tone, like I said, this book, I have never read any book that felt more like a love letter to samurai and martial arts movies than this one. Like I said, keeping with that tone, this kind of feels like a Seven Samurai tale being held in a 47 Ronin world. It's just, God, it's so good. Like, you really, really nailed this. Big old thumbs up on that, Rob J. Hayes. You killed it. It's pretty obvious to see that I enjoyed the book, but I have to say, I know that there are going to be some people that might not. And I think that those people are probably going to be the ones that are just not that into samurai stories or kung fu films, stuff like that. Because there is a lot of stuff that's pulled from those stories and movies and put in this book that might just go over your head. Especially, I would say, the humor. The humor in this book is very much like those martial arts tales. So if you don't know much about it, it's probably going to go right over your head. You're going to think it was a stupid, cheesy, shitty joke, and you're just not going to enjoy it. If you have watched a lot of martial arts films or samurai tales, this stuff is going to land because you're going to know exactly where the humor's coming from. It's going to hit you just right. It's going to make you kind of reminisce about those martial arts films that you just love so much. So, also another thing I want to talk about is the cover art. I believe the illustration was done by Felix Ortiz or Ortez, I'm not sure. But I bought this book off the cover. I know I keep telling you guys not to do that, and I keep doing it. But, I mean, I am a sucker for a samurai tale, and when I saw this cover, it just was like, this is what I need in my life. And I'm glad I bought it. It was very, very enjoyable. This is a standalone story, but it does take place in a world where more tales are to come. I do believe that Rob J. Hayes has another story that's going to take place in this world, and that book should come out later this year. So I'm extremely excited to continue journeying through this world. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. So, if you're an action junkie or a martial arts fan or you love a good samurai tale, I would definitely recommend picking up this book. Yeah, it's going to be right up your alley. Now, as far as the slow and the struggling, I think the struggling reader, you will have some trouble in the very beginning of this book. It's a lot going on, it's very chaotic, and it's all happening now. But like I said earlier, Rob J. Hayes he's got your back. He's going to keep that sucker nice and tight, really confined. So before you get too overwhelmed, everything gets dialed in just right for you, and you'll be able to keep up. I mean, I wouldn't worry. If you start to sweat a little bit in that very beginning, trust me, it gets dialed in just perfect, and you're going to be in for a steady, fast-paced ride. That's so much fun. As far as the slow readers, man, once again, this is not a very long book. This is also broken into pretty short chapters, making it pretty accessible for you. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for a slow reader not to pick this book up. If you're into martial arts or samurai tales, this is not going to be a waste of your time. So as always, thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel, guys. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to email me or drop some comments down in there. I don't care, man. I just want to talk to y'all. So, hit me up. Later, guys. Peace.